Well, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, everybody. I'm Connie Versellas, Head of Economic Development for the City of Sunnyvale. Thank you for joining us and welcome to our webinar, which is called Sell Online with E-commerce Tools. And we're going to introduce you to Shopify. So we're very excited to learn about that. With me today is Maria Rodriguez with the City of Sunnyvale, and also our partners, Don Mayer with the Sunnyvale Chamber of Commerce and Dennis King with the Small Business Development Center. Really, without these two organizations, we wouldn't be able to put on these fabulous webinars. So Don, thank you for your partnership and your support as always. And then Dennis, thank you for helping us with all of our webinars and small business assistance that we're able to provide together. I also want to allow the presenter, Israel Cerna, the opportunity to present the material that we have because it is valuable information, but we will have some time at the end of the presentation for some Q&A. So if you have questions, please raise your virtual hand and I will unmute you to ask your questions. Or if you feel more comfortable or if this works better for you, you can also type your questions in the chat and we will be able to read it and monitor that. Please note that this session is being recorded and we will provide the link to the video on the city's website at the end of the session. It's also my pleasure to introduce Sunnyvale's Mayor, Larry Klein, that's here with us today, and he would like to say a few words. So Larry?
Thank you, Connie. And so everyone, yeah, I'm Larry Klein, Mayor for the City of Sunnyvale, Mayor for the City of Crows lately. But I just want to thank everyone who is joining us today for what I know will be another great learning session. You know, I want to especially thank our partners, Google, the Sunnyvale Chamber of Commerce, and, you know, the Silicon Valley Small Business Development Center for partnering to provide these workshops. You know, today's session is on e-commerce. You know, really sounds interesting to me, you know, because it's not just about getting online. It's also then how you sell what you have once you're there. So I'm really looking forward to seeing it. And at this point, I'll just go ahead and pass it on to Israel to kick off the class. So thanks everyone for being here, and thank you, Israel.
Awesome, excellent. Thank you, Mayor, so much for having me again, and Happy New Year to you all. It's a pleasure to come back and be a part of this new webinar series that we're offering to you. So once again, thank you for being here this morning. And as the mayor said, today we are going to be talking about how to sell online with e-commerce tools. We're also going to be talking a little bit about Shopify at the end. This workshop is brought to you by the Grow with Google program, which is a program that helps entrepreneurs like yourself to grow your online presence through free digital skill trainings like today's workshop. If you're interested in learning more about what this program can offer you, I invite you to go to grow.google/small businesses. Once again, my name is Israel Cerna, and I'm joining you virtually from my home office in West Hollywood, California. I have my contact information for you. In case you have any questions after the webinar today, feel free to reach out to me either via email or LinkedIn, or you can also just visit my website as well. So if you're interested in staying in touch with me, I invite you to jot down my information. I also want to make sure that I mention this webinar series that we've produced for you. So we are launching the series with today's webinar, but we also have 2 more webinars scheduled for later this month, in February and in March. I'll come back in February to talk about Google Ads. So if this is something that you're interested in learning about, how Google Ads can help you drive more traffic to your store, to your website, I will be talking about Google Ads then. And then in March, I'm going to come back and talk to you about not just YouTube as a platform, but more importantly, talk about video marketing, which is really big these days. Through TikTok and YouTube, and most of these social media platforms now have video incorporated into their platforms. So what I will share with you is what it takes to produce these videos, what type of content can you be producing, just so that you have one more piece of content to be able to share with your followers and your customers. So I'm going to actually ask maybe Maria or Connie if they could drop the link to their Eventbrite profile. There you're going to be able to see the list of upcoming webinars and be able to register for them there, okay? Okay, so before we move on, I do have a poll question, and this is to help me understand who is in the audience and your knowledge and experience with selling online, okay? So my first poll question is, are you currently selling online? So the answers are yes, I am, but I'm here to learn some best practices. No, I'm not currently, but I'd like to. So maybe you're here to learn like how you can sell online, which is great. And then third, you're not really sure if maybe selling online is right for your business. We are gonna, talk about the types of businesses that do well online or what it means to have an e-commerce presence. So if you could just take a few seconds to let me know, that would be very helpful for me. So let's just give it a few more seconds and then I will share the results. Okay, so let's go ahead and close that poll question. As you can see, about 69% of you are not currently selling online, but you'd like to. So this is going to be a great webinar for you because we have a lot of great tools that not only Google offers, but also Shopify. And then 23% of you are already selling online. So that's great. And you're here to learn best practices. And then about 8% of you say you're not, and you're here to learn why you should. Great. Then I have a second question here for you. This is around the Google business profiles. Okay, so I'd like to know how many of you have already claimed your Google business profile. Okay, so the options for the poll are yes, I've claimed my profile. Yes, but I don't use it much. No, you're here to learn how. And then no, you're not even sure what a Google profile is, which is great because we're going to cover what that is too. So if you can take a few seconds just to answer that question, that's going to be very helpful. And we did offer this session last year. So you may have been a part of that webinar participation. So hopefully you did go and claim your profile after our session. Okay, so let's go ahead and share the results. And I'm showing that about 36% of you have not yet claimed your profile and you're here to learn how. Great. Then 29% of you have claimed your profile but don't know how to use it. Maybe you don't know how to update it. Not to worry. 21% of you said you're not sure what a business profile on Google is. And then 14% of you have claimed your business profile. Okay, perfect. This is very helpful for me. And then last question, and then we're going to move on, okay? My question is, are you familiar with the Google Merchant Center? So this one always surprises me because sometimes there's a lot of you that are familiar and then sometimes it's like people don't even know what this is. So if you can take a few seconds to answer this question, please. Oh, okay. This is interesting. Okay. Let's give it a couple more seconds. All right. Okay. This is interesting. All right. So let's look at the results. So about almost 50% of you say you're not sure what the Google Merchant Center is, which is good because I'm going to tell you what it is and how to set it up. 40% are not familiar with it but you want to learn about it. 7% do have it but don't know how to use it. So maybe you got through the setup process, but then you kind of got stuck. No worries, I can show you how to get past that. And then 7% of you have uploaded, you're connected your products, and you're using the Merchant Center. So that's actually very interesting. I normally don't see as many people who are familiar or who already have a Merchant Center account. So this is actually really good. We're off to a good start. Excellent. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on and let's take a look at today's agenda. So we're going to talk a lot about, and I'm going to explain to you why it's critical for retailers to have an online presence and to learn how to sell online, okay? So to help with that, I'm going to start by talking about two Google products. One is the business profiles on Google. 2 is the Google Merchant Center. I'm going to talk to you about all of the places your products can appear in Google once you're on the Google Merchant Center. Okay, so for those of you that already have a Google Merchant Center account, some of this initial stuff may be repeat information, but just hang in there with me. I promise there will be some other valuable information for you to help you understand how to make the most out of your Google Merchant Center accounts. And then after that, I'm going to introduce you to an e-commerce tool called Shopify, okay? And show you the basics of setting up an e-commerce website with this platform, okay? And then we're going to close it up with a recap, and then I'm going to point you to some additional resources that Google has to help you improve your online presence. So to start, let's talk about why it's important to be online anyway, okay? Well, to start, we know that every day, hundreds of millions of people are turning to Google to find, discover, and shop. And this is not just limited to Google searches either. People are discovering products everywhere, on their news feeds, on YouTube, social media accounts. So let's look at some statistics that help us, understand this movement a little bit more. So research, and this last year, actually 2 years now, has shown us that online shopping is on the rise. And in some cases, it's here to stay, right? So these days, if you've attended one of my webinars in the past, you've heard me say this before, that our customers are more researched or well-researched than ever before, okay? So our customers are going online to research, to do price comparisons, and to read reviews, okay? And in fact, 60% of shoppers say they are window shopping online first. So that's really interesting, right? Especially for those of you who have brick and mortar locations who were, counting on that foot traffic for window shopping. Just know that we're still doing that in some cases, but we're also doing that online more and more, okay? Now, don't think that shoppers are only shopping online. And this is what I want to make sure that I'm clear about, because I think there's this notion with our small businesses that we're going to go 100% online, right? And that my efforts to do any, in-person marketing should go out the window. That's not what I'm saying, and that's not the intention of this presentation, because we know that while in some cases, while the shopping experience begins online, we also know that the shopping experience can end offline. And we're seeing this more and more, especially during these last 2 years, with things like curbside pickup or in-store pickups, right? So we have to really think about or if we can offer that experience, right? Again, it doesn't mean that the shopping experience begins and ends online. In some cases, it starts online and ends offline, okay? All right, so I'll also share another global survey which found that 58% of global purchases were prompted by something that the shopper saw online. Therefore, it's now important for small businesses to show their products online in order to drive sales. Again, as I previously mentioned, shoppers are researching, price comparing, and as you're going to hear me speak in a minute, they're also confirming inventory online before they visit a store, okay? So here's something additionally interesting to share with you. Did you know that the average online shopping journey has over 140 touch points? And each of these touch points influence what people buy and who they buy it from. So this slide, what I'm sharing with you on the screen now, is some touch points on Google where US-based customers' interactions can happen, okay? And we're gonna talk about most of these today, okay? But you can see that it can begin with people discovering you through your business profile on Google, through the shopping tabs on Google, through shopping ads. This is what we're gonna cover in February when I talk about Google ads. It's this. Google Lens, which is a really interesting interactive new device that Google has, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about it. Google Images. Sometimes we forget that we do sometimes shop on images. I mean, I find myself landing on the Images tab all the time because sometimes it's easier for me to like visually look for the product that I'm looking for. okay? And then finally through Google search. And I'm gonna explain to you again a recap of how Google search works, okay? So let's start by first talking about your business profile on Google. Again, this is just a quick recap of the business profiles on Google. I actually offer a whole webinar on this topic alone, but today I just want to show you what it is and then how you can promote your products through this platform. Okay, so for those of you that are not familiar, this here on the right-hand side, you're actually seeing what a business profile on Google looks like. This is a free tool that is offered to small businesses, and it's intended for businesses who either have a physical store location or an office where you meet with people or customers one-on-one, okay? If you are a service-based business, you can also have one of these business profiles on Google, okay? So on this slide, I'm sharing with you an example of a business profile for a retailer called the Spice House. And as you can see within the profile, it includes important information like their address, their phone number, a description of their business, okay? And then also within these profiles, you can have, there is a product section, okay, where you can actually upload your products to your profile, okay? So let me walk you through what that process looks like of setting up or adding your products to your profile. Again, this section is, I'm not gonna walk you through the whole setup process. I'm just gonna focus on the product section of your business profiles. When I'm talking about Google products, I do wanna remind you that you will need a Google account to access any of these Google products that I'm gonna talk to you about today. So it's important, first and foremost, for you to set up an account. I always recommend that you set up your accounts utilizing an email account that you're going to check frequently or that you have access to, because Google does communicate information about your profile via email. So once you have your business profile on Google set up, okay, in the dashboard section, so I'm actually giving you a look behind the scenes of the platform. And there's a whole dashboard with just different editing options. One of those is the product section, okay? So when you go to this product section, what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to upload your products so that they show up on your business profile, okay? Now, the cool thing about this is that you can, you're gonna be able to select a category for the product. So that way, when people are searching for it, Google knows when to display your products, okay? So in this particular instance, they're spices. We're gonna select cooking spices for our category. We can also add a description to our product and include also the price range, okay? So you can include the price and then also the call to action, okay? So this is what the unique part is about these products is, as you can see, this is what it looks like once it's finished. The call to action button is going to be unique to your business or to the objective of your business. What do I mean by that? So remember, Google is going to do its job to showcase your product. It's going to give you the opportunity to include the prices of your product, the description. But this call to action, you can actually change that call to action to either point people to your website. You can also point people to your physical location, so to your address if you offer these products in person, okay? So again, there is that flexibility, again, that I was telling you about earlier, that somebody may find your product online, but they may want to pick up that product in store. And so, you know, this is a good opportunity for you to let people know that these products are offered in your physical location or on your e-commerce store, okay? So a lot of people who have business profiles on Google oftentimes forget that the product section is there. I'm here to remind you that it's there and that Google does read those and that Google does display those when people are searching for your products online, okay? So let's now move on to the Merchant Center, because as you saw, more than 50% of you online this morning are not familiar with the Google Merchant Center. Or if you do have a Merchant Center, maybe you haven't done as much. So I'm going to spend a bulk of my time on this section, okay? So what is a Google Merchant Center? So retailers use Merchant Center to make their store and product data available to shoppers across Google Shopping, Google Ads, and other Google services. So essentially, what you're doing is when you open up a Google Merchant Center account, is you're giving Google access to your inventory. So that way Google can display it across all of these different sections of not only Google, but the internet, okay? So let me walk you through the setup process quickly, okay? So actually, I'm gonna do that in a second. I'm gonna show you, once you set up your Google Merchant Center account, where your products can appear, okay? So first, products and product information may appear in the Google search results, okay? So when we're talking about Google results page, which is here, we're all maybe familiar with the Google results page, right? This down here in the organic search query, that is the gold mine, okay? This is where we want to appear because one, it's not costing us anything. It's just a matter of us optimizing our websites, our products online to make sure that Google knows when to display our products, okay? And that's really gonna be up to us. This is why it's important that we take our time with our product descriptions, that we add as much product detail into our product descriptions on our websites and on our business profiles so that Google knows when to display your product, okay? So as you can see here, you'll find the essential details of it, right? So, the typical search query will display a title, a description, and a link, okay? So you're gonna get this by default. Now, this is where the Google Merchant Center comes in, because the Google Merchant Center can also help you add what's called rich snippets, okay? Rich snippets are basically a jazzed up version of a description, and I'm gonna walk you through what that means, okay? So with these rich snippets, you can actually include some additional information, like for example, and I know it's a little bit blurry here, but through the rich snippets, you can actually include your ratings, like, is it a 5-star? Is it a 4-star? What are people saying about that specific product, okay? You can also display price, because remember, we're going online to do price comparing, okay? So if at first sight, if I'm doing a Google search query for this product and I can see here on the search results page everything that I need, I'm gonna click on this because I already know that all the information that I need is here, okay? Now, here is where I feel like the Merchant Center brings in the most value, because remember, the Merchant Center is talking to your system. And so now Google knows whether or not you have items in stock, okay? That is what people are looking for right here, is if they're looking for something, they wanna know whether they can buy it from you online or whether you have it in that physical store location. So this, remember, is like what we're doing online, okay? So these rich snippets that I'm talking to you about, you will have the ability to do this when you set up the Google Merchant Center, okay? Now, the other areas where you can show up or where your products can show up is on the shopping tabs, okay? Again, here, and I don't know how many of you have, it's like a black hole, trust me. Like I get in there and it's like, I just get lost, right? Because I love shopping visually, right? So the shopping tab actually gives you the product photo, it gives you the product detail, and it gives you all the details that you need, okay? So through the Google Merchant Center, you'll be able to appear in the shopping tab as well as the images tab, okay? Now, when you are connected with the Merchant Center, it's not just an image that will appear, but as you can see, it's also gonna let me know if you have that item in stock. And again, These little details are what people are looking for online. And so with the Merchant Center, it's good that you would be able to let people know if you have that item in stock, okay? So Google Lens. So this is actually it's in beta, okay? So this is something new that Google is testing out. And essentially with Google Lens, what it allows you to do is to be able to shop with your phone or to look for items with your phone. So the way that it would work is there is an application that you would have to download. And essentially what you do is you take a photo of the item that you're looking for, and Google's gonna recommend or find items that look like it, okay? So I actually did this experiment with my coffee, right? So I'm a big coffee aficionado, by the way. So what I actually did is I tested it out by scanning my coffee bag, my whole bean coffee bag. What was interesting is that Google actually was able to show me the roastery that I bought it from. So it was actually able to identify, where I bought it. So this is the whole idea behind Google Lens, is that it can help you be discovered by shoppers that are looking for things. And there's how many times does that happen, right? You go to a friend's house, you ask where they bought it, they forgot. Well, you can now take a photo and Google can actually make recommendations on where to find a similar product, okay? What's interesting also is that I tested it out with something a little bit more generic because I was curious to see what would happen. It's a pretty basic white cup, right? What was interesting is that Google did find a similar product, as you can see here. But what I loved about this too is that it also recommended coffee articles. So I thought that was really interesting that it would also show me, articles related to that product, okay? So it's still very much in beta, but I would actually be curious to see what Google is showing for your products. So that's a little bit of homework that I'll leave for you, or a to-do list, okay? Okay, so last but not least, and again, we're gonna take a deeper dive on this in February when I do talk about Google Ads, but the other place where your products or services can be displayed once you do connect to the Google Merchant Center is being able to connect the Google Merchant Center to your ads. And this is why it's important, or the connection between the Google Ads and Merchant Center, is that, let's say, for example, you have an item where you have a lot of that item on inventory. You'll be able to create and generate ads to be able to drive sales for that particular item, because remember, Google now has access to your inventory and will know how many items you have in stock, and so you'll be able to create campaigns to drive traffic to that particular product, okay? So again, you will be able to connect your Google Merchant Center to your Google Ads. So the setup process is pretty easy, and I'm gonna just walk you through it real quick. For those of you that already have accounts, just bear with me while I show the rest of the folks how to get on. So you would follow this link, g.com/merchant center, okay? You would obviously be logged into your Google account. You would enter your business information. It does ask you the country because we don't want to be displaying products in Mexico if you're not offering, international shipping. So you would let Google know where you can and are able to do business, okay? So you would enter your business information. And then here is where you have a little bit more control as to what the objective is about being on the Merchant Center, okay? So you actually have the option to offer customers 3 checkout options, okay? One is to check out on your website, which is what a lot of people choose, right? Especially if you're trying to drive e-commerce sales. You would want to point people to your website. That basically means that Google, once they click on that product, because they see that you have it in stock, you'll be able to it's going to point you to your website, and people will be able to check out on your website. There are many benefits to this, because if you have your e-commerce set up where you make recommended, where you add recommendations for product, you can sell more, right? Then the second option is to keep people on Google. So basically with the Merchant Center, people can actually check out on Google, meaning they're not going to be turned to your website. Everything happens within Google. And I see this option being a lot of businesses who don't have a website usually go this route because everything gets done by Google, okay? And then finally is at your store. So right now, specifically with businesses that are looking to increase their foot traffic, okay, you will select option number 3, which is to drive people to your location, okay? So this could be, checking out online, but picking up curbside. This just means that, it's only in-store purchases. Whatever your current process is, you'll be able to point people to your local store, okay? So here is just, you can link your Google Merchant Center to these third-party platforms, like with your PayPal. So if you are, if the checkout process is gonna stay on Google, then you can just connect your PayPal so that Google can pay you through PayPal. And then through Shopify. And we're gonna talk a little bit about this later, but because Shopify does have an integration with Google, as you will see later on in the presentation, it makes this whole setup process a whole lot easier. And I'll explain that in a minute, okay? So here, you're just going to, once you're in the Google Merchant Center, this is a look at the dashboard. So as you can see here, the Merchant Center gives you an overview of your activity, which I always say, we wanna make sure that we're just not launching these things, that we're tracking what is happening, what is the activity, okay? A section for you to upload your products, which we're gonna cover next. And then again, measuring the performance and the growth of our Merchant Center, because this isn't just about launching, guys. It's about like making sure that it's working for us, and that if something isn't working, that we're adjusting to make sure that it does, okay? There is a verification process. There's 3 ways to verify your account. This is essentially Google just wanting to make sure that if we are gonna be pointing people to your website, Google wants to make sure that it is your website, okay? So there is a verification process to all of this. When it comes to uploading your products, there's 2 ways to do it. One, you can upload individual products, or 2, you can upload multiple products at a time, okay? So when you do add individual products, you will have, a title, you can include the price, a description. You can also include the variants to your product. What this means is, let's just say that I operate a boutique and I offer this Grow with Google shirt in colors red, green, and blue, and in sizes medium, large, or extra large. These are the variants that you can tell Google, so that way it knows your inventory, and it can display whether or not you have it available in large or not, okay? So there's the individual way, then there's the uploading multiple products, okay? So you can actually take advantage of a Google Sheets that Google offers, okay? Where you can actually enter all of the product detail individually in an Excel sheet, or download your, from your existing CRM system and be able to upload those as well. But you can upload products in multiples, either through the Google Sheets template that's made available for you, or through your own, okay? Okay, and then once you do that, again, this is all the areas on Google where your products can appear, okay? So that's the setup process for Google Merchant Center. I'm gonna now spend the next 10 minutes or so talking about Shopify, okay? So I wanna preface it by saying that we are talking about Shopify today, which is one of many content management system platforms out there, okay? These content management systems, or CMS systems, are used so that you can sell online, okay? Now, Shopify has been around for well over 10 years now. So I'm gonna give you an intro to Shopify, how to get started, and then how to connect your Shopify account to Google Merchant Center, because one of the things that, like I mentioned earlier, Shopify does integrate with Google Merchant Center. So if you remember that Excel doc that we just talked about, or that Google Sheets doc, when you connect these accounts, you actually don't have to do that because the systems talk to each other, okay? All right, so again, to understand Shopify is to also understand that they are here to help small businesses get online, okay? So their mission is to help entrepreneurs like yourself to be able to start to sell online. And they've come a long way. I mean, like I said, they've been around for a while now, 15 years actually, and they're now being used across 175 different countries. So it's a pretty large corporation. They're based out of Canada. Okay. Now, to get started with Shopify, okay, this is an example, by the way, of what their platform looks like. Okay. So this is, you're actually looking at the Spice House website on Shopify. So to get started, you can actually open up a trial account with Shopify. Now, I will mention to you that if you are in that initial process of trying to identify which platform is going to be best for you, I would actually recommend that you take advantage of this free trial and that you also go and seek out other trials, because most platforms these days do give you a free trial, whether it's 30, 60, or 90 days. I would actually open up a free trial account with as many, maybe 3, okay? Don't overwhelm yourself, pick 3. And then my biggest thing is, when I'm talking to small business owners, is that I want you to feel comfortable with the platform, because at the end of the day, it may be you who's gonna have to manage this account. You may be outsourcing it, right? I would still want you to feel comfortable with the platform, because I've heard every story in the last 15 years that I've been in this industry. 15 years ago, I would hear a lot of business owners saying, I got locked out of my account. I can't get a hold of my developer, and I really need to update this website. This is what these platforms are intended to do, is to give you control over your website by providing you with easy to use platforms or easy to use templates, okay? So again, my advice to you is open up 3 trials, test them all out, and really figure out which one is best for you or which one you feel comfortable with, and then go that route, okay? So again, I'm only talking about Shopify today, but there's a lot of other platforms out there, okay? So the setup process, very similar to a lot of Google products, in that it's going to want to learn a little bit more about your business so that it can make recommendations when it comes to the templates. Now, they offer hundreds of templates, okay, which is so helpful these days, because you don't have to start from scratch. You can take a template, customize your template with your logo, your colors, and not have to do any coding, because it's all in the back end that's being done for you. Most of the templates, I would probably say, I wouldn't be surprised if close to 100% of their templates are mobile responsive, which means that they're going to automatically adjust themselves to the different devices that people are using, okay? So that's a big thing about e-commerce in general, is that you want to make sure that you're providing a really positive experience for people. And so when you do have a mobile responsive website, it makes that shopping experience a lot more pleasant, okay? So this is the back end of the Shopify sites. If you're not familiar with them, you have access to all of these editing options, okay? You can modify your theme, you can add products, you can view and fulfill orders through your Shopify. You can even create email marketing campaigns through Shopify, and then also get access to your analytics and reporting. So when it comes to adding products, again, there is this product tab. One misconception that I hear a lot, especially with like service-based businesses, is that they don't think that e-commerce websites are for them. But even if you sell like webinars or like ebooks or educational courses, Shopify site can also benefit you because you can actually sell physical and digital assets on these sites as well, okay? It's gonna actually allow you to, upload your inventory and keep track of your inventory. And then this is what it looks like on the when you're adding a product. And the key thing to all of this is you're gonna hear me talk a lot about, these descriptions, right? When you're working on these descriptions, my recommendation is that you use as many keywords as possible so that Google can start to identify those keywords with your business. What I mean by that is, in this particular case with Spice House, they're probably using a lot of the keywords like specialty spices, okay? They want to be known as a specialty spice, business, right? So they're probably incorporating a lot of those keywords into their business. So that's what we mean by those keywords. Okay, so once you set up your Google account, your Shopify account, you will be able to connect it to Google, okay? So on the back end, under Sales Channel, you can actually plug your Google account with Shopify. And why we want to do this is because it's going to allow you or the systems, the Google Merchant Center and Shopify, to talk to each other so that that inventory section that I showed you earlier, it's going to be able to showcase if you have items in store or in stock. Okay, I'm just walking you quickly through how to connect those accounts, okay? You're going to confirm your store requirements. Basically, with this section, just so you know, one of the things that Google will want to see when you are setting up or connecting your accounts is that it wants you to have somewhere on your site what your refund or return policy is. Even if you don't accept refunds or returns, it's still going to want to make sure that you are making that or publishing that on your website. A lot of people forget about that, and it's actually one of the frequently asked questions that shoppers have when they're shopping online is, what is the return or the refund policy? Okay, so Google will want to make sure that you have something on your website that talks about that, because remember, if Google's going to be promoting your products or make your products discoverable online, it wants to make sure that shoppers are going to have all the information that they need, okay? So with the sync section, again, this is one of the benefits to connecting your Shopify account with Google, is that you don't have to upload a document, you don't have to enter your products manually, because with the sync option is you're essentially allowing the systems to talk to one another, which is going to help avoid all of these extra steps, okay? And so I know we covered a lot. We're going to open it up for Q&A right now. One thing that I do want to just, preface it, because I think this whole process can feel overwhelming. Sometimes as small business owners, we maybe second guess ourselves, like, can I really sell online? Should I really be selling online? How do I make my products available online? So I want to just encourage you to take the first step, okay, into experimenting with Google Merchant Center if you don't have a website, okay? And then just remember, you don't have to be good to start. You just have to start to be good, okay? So let me quickly, again, I want to make sure that I plug our upcoming webinar series. So Connie or Maria, if you can help me by dropping the link to Eventbrite, I want to make sure that people have access to that.
I am going to do that right now in the Q&A.
Perfect.
Israel.
Perfect. And then just two additional resources. So if you already have an e-commerce store, Google does have this tool called Grow My Store. Basically, what you do is you go in and you type in your website, and Google's actually going to give you a report based on how it views your website from a user perspective, okay? We talked a lot in the e-commerce space about making sure that you offer a great user experience. What does that mean? Well, Google will see, will report on how easy is it to check out on your e-commerce store. Is it easy to find a product? Can I find inventory information? Can I find information about returns? So Google will actually make an assessment of your e-commerce website and provide you with the report. Okay. And then also, if you're interested in, just hearing some on-demand trainings, there are some on-demand trainings at Grow on Air. Feel free to go there, and there's different topics that are being offered. These are digestible webinars, very similar to like today's, that you have access to. So with that, Connie, any questions? I would also like to encourage people to leave their feedback. Like, did you learn something? What was the one thing that stood out the most? That's also helpful for me, even if you don't have a question.
Yes, we do have a few questions, Israel. So thank you for the good transition. We'll start with the first question: is Shopify a platform to sell anything or just tangible product, or is it also good for to sell services?
Yes, and I covered that a little bit, right? So I talked about how it is for physical and digital assets. So let's just hypothetically say that I'm a counselor, a psychologist, right? I may have courses on my website where I can, offer meditation courses, webinar courses, things like that. So you can offer also downloadable ebooks, webinars, registrations, things like that.
Great, thank you for that. I think all of this information is phenomenal, Israel, and I know it's hard to be able to do a brain dump of everything that you have to offer in a short time. So thank you for being so concise. The other question is, these slides are really great. Can we get them on a download? I'd like to share with my colleagues. And I don't want to preempt you, Israel, but I know you've been very generous in the past in sharing your slides with us.
Yep.
I'm assuming that will be the case.
Yes.
So for everybody who is participating on today's call, we will email you a link where you can see the slides and the recorded conversation on our website. The Chamber and the SBDC also share that information on their website and for their members. So please encourage your friends who also have businesses to go to the link and be able to look at the slides and view the recording. Okay, the other question is, I have a Google My Business. How can I get from there to Google Merchant Center?
So let me just go back to, you would just go to the Merchant Center link, and it's going to be sorry, let me go back. Give me one sec. So it is, I don't know it off the top of my head, but it's g.com. So just to be clear, there are two different accounts. So through your Google My Business, it's not tied to Merchant Center, right? So you have to create a Google Merchant Center account, okay? If you're logged into Google, it's going to be a lot easier because you already have an account. So you just have to go to the application tabs and then find the Merchant Center, or just go to g.com/Merchant Center, log in with your Google account, and then step one is already going to be done because you don't have to set up your name or anything like that. You would just begin with that process of uploading your product.
Great, thank you. The other question is, can Google connect to Square Store?
So I have to double check. Actually came up on a webinar last week, and I have to double check. It's always good to, when you go into the process here, so as they become available, you should see which other ones are available. So if you don't see Squarespace on there, that's one indicator that it's not connected. But it doesn't mean that it's not going to. So they may be working on those integrations now. So I would check regularly.
And it's probably also checking with Square as a vendor, right, too? Because
True.
If you tell Square that there's a demand for this type of integration in the service, it always helps to sort of prod, I think, both sides of the
True.
fence, right, as they say.
Yep.
Okay, let's see, one more question. Thank you. I didn't realize I could use Shopify and not have to build my own website elsewhere. So this is great info.
Good. Yeah, and like I said, there's a lot of platforms out there. Today we're just talking about Shopify, and we've come such a long way as an industry in the last 10 years because of I think a lot of business owners felt stuck for so long, having to go to, developers for a custom website. I mean, you don't really need that these days, right? I mean, it doesn't need to be a fully customizable website. These templates are so good. Like, you can just edit and make it your own with what's being provided. And then, like I said, you don't need to be a coder or no coding, to launch one.
Those are all the questions that we have in the chat. If anybody has any questions, we still have a few more minutes. And, Israel is a wonderful source, so he's a great person to ask. If you have any questions, you could raise your hand or type your question in the chat.
Or your impressions. Those are always good too.
Yes, your feedback would be greatly appreciated.
I'm going to put my contact information up, Connie, if that's okay.
Yep, and I have another question. Is there somewhere to go to find out more about setting your return policies?
Well, it's just going to depend on what you want to offer, right? So I think that there's a standard. They're just the industry standards. So I will say this. I would probably start with your industry. What are the industry standards, right? Like, for example, my partner is an antique dealer. One of the first things that we did is to figure out what are others doing for returns, right? How are they handling returns, especially with like shipping and so forth, right? So I think as an industry or within your industry, I would first check to see what is common, right? And then there are a lot of, even within Shopify, it actually gives you a template and verbiage, right? It's like verbiage for returns. You can customize that. Maybe you don't offer 30-day, maybe it's 15 days. Maybe it's, you accept anything that hasn't been opened, right? So it's really going to depend. You can customize depending on your industry. I would actually maybe go and look at what your competitor is doing, okay? And then what others in your industry are doing, and then customize accordingly. But it is common, by the way, and I would actually include it in the FAQ section. I would include it in your FAQ section, and then I would include it maybe in the checkout process of your site.
Okay. Any other questions coming our way? Oh, I think Dawn has were you?
Sorry, I was trying to type a question, but it's not letting me. But I did want to find out, I think it's the Merchant Center, when I've set that up and it reflects my ratings. How do I get those?
Yes.
ratings?
So you would do in the product section. So when we uploaded two things. You can have it feed from your Shopify, right? So if you're collecting reviews on your Shopify account, for example, it can reflect, right? Or it can reflect from your Google My Business, from your business profile.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's helpful because I know how often that when I'm shopping, I'm always looking to see what the ratings are. And so I know that that's something that would, any vendor would want to encourage people to offer, and that's important to be able to see. Yeah.
We talk a lot about the trust economy, right? So the trust economy is like, it involves even just things like Uber, right? Where we now trust people to get in their car and trust them to take us to where we want, right? The trust economy is huge with reviews as well, because now, it used to be that we would call an aunt, a friend for a recommendation. Now we go online for those and we trust people, right? And we see a negative and then a positive, and we are well aware enough as consumers that there are different opinions, and that we're going to read all those reviews and then make our own conclusion. But reviews are huge, huge, huge.
Yeah, I always look for that product that has a greater number of reviews, because since
greater number of reviews, yes,
right, and to your point, you have to balance the 1 star with a 5-star and try and guess a little bit what was in the shopper's head. It's just interesting, but it makes a big difference in hitting that buy button.
Yeah, I love what you just said, the volume of reviews, because, we do pay attention to stuff like that. So you may have a 5-star review, but it's only 5 reviews, right? Versus having a 5-star review with 160 reviews. So those things do influence. And when I talk about in my Get Your Local Business workshop, I talk a lot about reviews and encouraging business owners to incentivize customers to leave a review, to remind customers to leave reviews, because we factor that in. That's how we do it these days.
Yeah, it is. And I need to get better at leaving the review, considering how useful I find them.
I do. Yeah, I make it a point, as you know, in fact, I did a post for the holidays and I said, one of the ways that you can give back to small businesses is to leave a review. I mean, we can all do that. It costs us nothing.
And I think, I just want to remind people on that point is, as business owners, please don't be shy to ask. All it is that reminder as you're putting, that product in the bag or sending an email, even on your email, just say and send them the link, because to me that is always very helpful, especially after I buy something and I get that electronic receipt and it says please leave a review and the link is right there. It is so easy for us to go. It takes a minute, and if you provided a good service and a good product, people will leave you good reviews. 100%.
Enable your team members. So it may not be you at the counter. It may be your employees. Write a script. Make it an incentive.
Absolutely. I do want to be cognizant of time, and it looks like some people are leaving, but we do have one last question, and says, from Sarah, thank you. This has been quite motivating to get my act together and to set up my idea as an online business, because this step has always been too difficult to work out. So this has been very helpful. So thank you, Sarah, for that. And I responded online, and that's where I added the Eventbrite link in, where you can follow the city's economic development page so you can be notified of future events. And also, as I said, everybody on this call will receive an email reminding you to check the city's website and economic development. We'll have the link to the recording of today, as well as past sessions that we've had, because if you think this was informative, we've been really fortunate to have Israel with us for a while, a series that we'll call it, and he's been so informative on past sessions, and we're looking forward to the future ones that we're going to have as well. So with that, thank everybody for joining us today. This has been very, I need to have, need to leave. Thank you, very informative webinar. So everybody's leaving. So thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic day. Israel, as always, phenomenal job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
all. All
all.
right, everybody.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mayor.
Bye.
Thank you, Don.
Bye.